Alright everyone, and hello and welcome to our next video. In today's video we're gonna go over basically going over our engine a little bit more, getting to place actors around our scene and getting more comfortable with the engine, as I said. So first of all, one thing you've maybe noticed is that the fact that my windows are probably different a little bit than you, the way it looks, the engine. Well, the viewport is the same, outliner and details as we went through it the other day. You may not have the world settings, don't worry about it. You may not have the content browser pinned, or this place actors panel, don't worry. All you gotta do is you go to the Windows tab or window, you drag in whatever you want. In this case, I have my content browser, and if it's in the middle or whatnot, if it appears wherever, you just drag it and you just place it wherever you want, and it would show you a preview of it. And here we go, same as the place actors panel, and as the name suggests, we are able to drag things from our scene into our from that tab to our scene, as we can see. And I have that pinned on the left side as well. And here we go. And the log is not important, so don't worry about it for now, at least. So we have our engine, and as we went through it, we were working with the player start the other day. So what I'm gonna do first is, this level is an untitled level, so whatever changes you're gonna make is not gonna be safe. So I'm gonna ask you to create a new level, and this level is gonna be from scratch. Everything's from scratch, and not including everything. Like, it's gonna be an empty level without anything here in the scene. So we're gonna make everything from scratch. So we're gonna go to new level and choose a empty level, a solid empty level with literally nothing in it. We don't save, whatever. So this is our level, a pretty blank level with nothing in it, 0 actors. Okay, so let's go over it. Since whatever I drag in here, well, this is going to be visible in this case, but most likely it's not going to be visible. Try to make sure to make this into unlit mode for now until we add some lights to the scene, because by default, this, as you see, there's nothing visible here almost. So just make sure you have this in unlit mode, so renders the scene with no lights, so you can see everything here even when it has no lights. Okay, so I am gonna go with the unlit, and I'm gonna just play some actors right now. So what we have here is a little static mesh actor, and we have a geometry mesh actor. So the difference between these two are the fact that a geometry mesh, if you have done any 3D applications before, these are basically polygons you can drag into your scene, and you can play around with the size here instead of doing it manually by a scale, which would really mess up the textures, as you see, and we're going to see later. So that's the difference between a geometry and a static mesh. Static mesh actor, sorry. And a static mesh actor, you can also have in a static mesh actor, you can have physics, but in this one you can't. So if you want to have, for example, gravity and stuff, you would use a static mesh actor, at least. Okay, so I'm just gonna make a little cool something. So I'm just gonna make, I'm gonna go to the geometry tab, drag in a new something. As you can see, you can drag into your scene everything you want, and a details panel for it. Always try to look into the details panel and try to understand it. Well, there's an X and Y, Z. Try to play around with the values, see what differences does it make. As you can see, I'm going to make a little ground for myself like this big. Let's just make it a little bit smaller so we can keep it handy. And oh, by the way, well, first of all, let me make this a little bit smaller because this is going to be the ground we're going to be walking on. Okay, so this is our level, and I'm going to press Control S. That's the save button. And this is the content browser, so I'm going to go to the new folder because we're going to save this level. Try to save this level first. I'm going to create a new folder called Levels in my Contents tab, and here we go. I'm going to name it something. Going to be like my first level. Let's go, and just press save. Okay, so this is our level, and we're going to tell Unreal Engine whenever the engine loads up, load this engine by default instead of something new. So just go to Edit, Project Settings, go to Maps and Modes. We're going to look at others later on. And just, if it's not here, all you just got to do here, look for your name of your level, or you can search it up. In this case, I will search it up. Edit Startup Map, Editor Startup Map. The game default map, I would also do that as well. Why not? That's basically when your game starts, which level, because if you have multiple levels, the game would know which one should load by default. Okay, here we go. So we have our first level. I'm gonna press Control S. Control S is for saving current level. Save all is for saving everything all at once. Well, saving one by one sometimes really comes in handy. Saving all, usually that's the one I do it. Control Shift S. But anyways, so we have this little ground, and again, if I go to the lit mode, there's gonna be literally no lights visible. So I'm just gonna go to the lights panel and drag in a little light. So here we go. If you go to the lit tab, now I have a little light here. So, and if I happen to go to the basic, just like how we had it in the previous thing, if I drag in a player start, this is going to be the location the player starts. So if I happen to start my game from here right now, here we go, that's where we start. A character doesn't have a solid physics right now. We can go wherever, fly. So that's okay for now. And so what we're going to talk about today is basically actors. Okay, so I just showed you how you can place around actors in your scene and all. We just created a new blank level, which is usually what people do when they want to create a whole new level from scratch. Anyways, so a geometry is basically polygons you can play around with their transformation and all really easily. Like for example, the staircase, I can basically make the staircase how big ever I want, each step height, the number of steps. Look at that, that's a big staircase. So if I happen to like make it this big, here we go, we have a staircase that's this big. Okay, so we don't want to look at that for now, but every single thing here is an actor. So an actor, so whenever you're defining something new and you're kind of confused, go search it up into Google with the Unreal Engine keyword in it. For example, I'm going to say Unreal Engine actor, and once you search it up, if it comes up here or if it doesn't, just go to the documentation. It doesn't matter if it's a 5-point something documentation or not, because usually for very basic concepts like these, they're going to be the same for everything. So, actors. Actor is any, I'm just going to go to here just in case. Here we go. An actor is any object that can be placed into a level, such as a camera, a static mesh, or player start location. That's the one we already have worked with. So whatever is into our level, and we can see or we can just put it into our level, is an actor. Okay, actors support 3D support 3D transformation, such as translation, rotation, and scaling, which we have already done with the W, E, and R keywords. We also have snapping, as I said, which makes you move things around with a scale. For example, if I put this at 500, I'm going to put this on lit mode. As you can see, I'm going to press W for transformation. Every single time I move this, it's going to move 100 units. But if I have this on 5, it's going to move every 5 units. If I turn this off, it's going to move however little I want it to be. Okay, so usually try to usually always at least work with the 5 based ones, because if you want to, for example, put 2 little actors next to each other, you want to make sure you don't want to mess up the order that they're in, and like you want to make sure they're right next to each other. Or if you want to, for example, have 2 cubes that are exactly 100 pixels away from each other. Like imagine 200. Imagine I have three cubes, and each are like 200 pixels. You see, in an equal position. And how you might be asking yourself how I'm copying all these instead of dragging everything here. I'm literally making copy of one thing that I have. So you hold down Alt on your keyboard, and once you drag it out, you have a new copy of your actor. And if you want another copy, you just release Alt, hold down Alt again, and do the same thing. Kind of easy, right? Anyway, so I'm going to go back to the lit mode to see our scene with the light. I'm going to put a little bit of texture here. So in this case, I'm just going to... So usually, for your actors, you're going to work with... your actors are all going to have different components. And components in this case, this being a brush component, well, every actor has a component. You got to know that. And the type of actor that actor is usually is defined by its root component. So once you go to its root component of this brush, this brush component of this brush actor or this geometry actor, you're going to see a lot of options, which we don't really need any of these right now for now. We're just going to look at the materials in this case, and I'm going to search up something from the engine that's by default. And here we go. We have a little stone wall, I guess, here. Let me just actually make it into a little cobble. Here we go. This looks better. This would actually look really good in a nighttime level. Like, I'm going to full screen this with F11. Here we go. So this is actually, this looks pretty nice actually. Imagine if this was a nighttime level and like you had a bunch of creepy stuff going on. This could be really nice. Anyways, so we have our little, we dragged it here. I'm gonna put it into unlit mode again, and we have this. Okay, so a geometry mesh, as you can see, every single side has its own type of material, but a static mesh, where later on we're gonna see things static mesh. Like if we go here into our content browser, which has everything in our engine and the things that we put there and the default engine stuff, our stuff usually goes into the content. So we're gonna look at content for now. This is the levels folder that we just made. I'm gonna press Control Shift S for everything to save. There's starter contents. If you don't have this, it's probably because you didn't turn on the little tick that says starter content when you were creating your project. Don't worry about it. All I'm gonna do right now is have this, and I'm gonna go to the shapes, which these are static meshes. I'm gonna drag one of these in and maybe make it here, and I'm gonna make this material look a little bit, let's say, metallic. How about this? Metal. Do we have any metal? How about this? Gold is a good one. Yes, we have a cube gold. Here we go. Okay, so we have a we have a cube gold, a golden cube in the middle of our map, and as you can see, I mean, it's kind of boring, but I mean, hey, we're learning how to work with things little bits by bits. So for now, you got to know how to place actors in your scene and make them to work. And whatever you drag in, if it's a shape, it's going to be a static mesh. If it's a geometry, it's going to be a brush in this case. So I want you to play around, make a little scene for yourself, make a little level, and once you bring up anything, try to look at its details panel and look at the actor itself, the name, and look at its root components. Okay? So, and the root component in this case, for example, if you're working with the brushes especially, I mean the brush being the ground here, you're not going to be able to put any textures on here unless you go to the brush component and you select texture here. So, but here you can either select it either way, it doesn't matter. Just look at the root component as you're dragging things into your scene. For example, if I go to the basic, if I put in a character in this case, there's going to be multiple components for it, but we're going to look into that later. So, and try to make a little scene for yourself. I would give that for you as a challenge, and we're just going to go on. Just get yourself comfortable with it and just come back after unpausing it. Alright everyone, hello again and welcome. So I hope you made a little something for yourself as I told you to pause this video. So in this case, I just have this for now. I'm gonna work on it a little bit more well after this video, and with the later on video we're gonna go over the next things, because as I said, I want to make this short and well I want you guys to learn something out of this. So let's go to, if I happen to be wanting to make another copy of this, I just hold down Alt again. I make 3 golden cubes, and here we go. We have a little scene for ourselves. I'm gonna make another. I'm gonna go to geometry, go to the box. I'm gonna make this a little bit smaller. I'm gonna make it a wall, so I'm gonna make it really thin. And by holding down Control, you can select multiple things, as I said in the previous lecture. So I'm going to hold down Alt and select different sides of this brush vector. So this brush actor, and I'm going to select a wall, something for it. Like a basic wall could work, or I can just put concrete on it. I mean, that's one of the default stuff again, but it's still pretty nice. Okay, here we go. And here we go. Okay, so we have a little concrete things for ourselves. I'm gonna make it here. Here we go. That looks pretty nice. I'm just gonna go here, and I'm gonna extend this a little bit. Here we go. And we have a little wall for ourselves, but it's like not really proper. I'm gonna bring it down a little bit more here. Here we go. Our first ever wall and our first ever thing. So if I happen to start my game here, here we go. It looks pretty nice, right? Okay, so I mean, you can play around with the light as well. That's a point light. I'm gonna place around different lights. Again, everything has its own components. As you can see, a point light has a point light component. And if I go here, I can change the tone of the scene, like satanic rituals. I don't know, a blue room, like a green room, whatever. For now, I'm just gonna literally just leave it as it is. You can choose the intensity for the light, the radius, the attention radius for the light. Though be really careful with the radius. If it's too high, it would cause optimization issues. Try to make it as big as you want, because things can be also seen behind the wall, which can become a really bad habit if you do it too much. Try to not do it as much as you can. Try to cover the area you want it to cover. And if it doesn't, just play around with the intensity a little bit more instead of playing around with these other settings. So in this case, I'm just going to have this a little bit smaller because I want this to be small. Alright, here we go. So I'm going to make this a little bit big. Maybe 100 would be good. Okay, it's good. This is a little point light, and I'm going to have another light, which is a spotlight. And in this case, if you see a spotlight, you can have it like that. Like, imagine if it's a car or something, or for example, a flashlight that's on the ground. I'm gonna attach a spotlight to it, and that's how it would look. Here we go. And I'm gonna just make this unlit and make sure I'm able to put it on at least a little bit close to the wall. Here we go. Or I can make it like a street light, like this. Here we go. It actually looks pretty nice. Look at that. Now we have a whole scene for ourselves. So I made a little scene. We dragged in lights. We dragged in some components and some actors, and we looked at its components. For example, a light component in this scene, a point light component, and a spotlight component. They both have some common properties. Like the spotlight has some extra stuff, like the angle and other stuff, but they're pretty simple. Once you look at the details panel quickly, like the general or the all tab for them, you're gonna get to see more stuff. And again, if it's something like the geometry meshes in this case, just try to make sure you click on both, because they both have different things that you can do with. Go for the root component if you want to do anything with the materials or selecting the surfaces. Other than that, just work with here with the actor if you want to change the size of it. And if I happen to be changing sizes again also, as you can see, we have this little cube, okay? So if I happen to have this, you might be asking yourself, why do we use this? Okay, why don't we just use the normal scaling we have with the R button that we have on our keyboard? Okay, now I'm going to answer that question for you by just doing it. Look how it would look, how ugly it would look if I happen to scale it like that. But the good thing about geometry is that I can stretch it out as much as I want. And just look, still would look good as it was. That's one thing. And plus, in minor cases, when you want to make your static, because these are geometry meshes again, we're not going to be working with these much in later on videos. But if we happen to, for example, have a static mesh, for example, imagine we have a model of a sword or a literally anything, a flashlight in a scene. I want to make it bigger. It would make it uniformly bigger by holding down the middle button and making it bigger and smaller. Anyways. And this is basically for today's lecture. It was pretty small, pretty short. I hope you learned something. We got to work with the engine, just got to get to know the windows a little bit more, and also just dragging some things into our scene. And I'm so glad you came this far. Thank you again. And the lecture is over. You can just move on to the next one. خب دوستان، من یه جنبندی کلی بکنم سر این چیزایی که گفتیم. یه لول جدید ایجاد کردیم و یه پوشه براش ساختیم و خب این پوشه هامون رو که ساختیم، یه پوشه لول ساختیم که گفتیم همه چی ارگانایز بکنیم و اینجا چیزامون انداختیم روی سینمون، روی همین چیزی که داریم. برای هر چیزی که کلیک بکنید میتونید دیتیلاشو ببینید و تغییرش بدین. اسمش میتونید بخونید، اینتنسیتی میتونید شدت نور رو کم کنید، مثلا ریدیسش رو میتونید کم و زیاد کنید و این حرفا. بعد جیومتری مشا رو گفتم و اینا که جیومتری مشا رو مثلا میشه اندازه‌اشو تغییر داد و این حرفا بدون اینکه اینجوری خراب بشه. راحت میشه مثلا با ایناش کار کرد. برای دیوارا و زمین و اینا خیلی به کار میره خیلی. و چیزی که دیگه ای که گفتم اینه که خب استاتیک مشام و فیزیک میتونن داشته باشن، ولی خب اونا نمیتونن، واسه همین استاتیک مشا هستن بیشتر به کار میرن. و خب دیوارامون هم که خوشگلن خوبن، همین یعنی سین خیلی خوشگل همین الان درست کردیم که الان اگه بازی رو همین الان شروع کنم فول اسکرین کنم یه همچین سینی دارم که خب نسبتا خیلی اتفاقا خوشگلم هست. شاید خیلی نورش زیاد باشه اینجا، ولی خب حالا برای چیزی که داریم اوکی. مثلا یکم بیارمش بالاتر، اوکی. مثلا الان این بد نیست نسبتا، این واقعا خب خوشگله یه جورایی، ولی اوکی. خلاصه آره می‌خواستم فقط یکم با انجین بیشتر آشنا بشید و لولتون رو بسازید و همونجوری که گفتم و لول دیفالتتون انتخاب کنید و این حرفا و دیگه همین. چون که ویدیو بعدی دلمون میخواد که بیشتر با این آشنا بشیم که چجوری با کاراکترامون رو بسازیم و چجوری با اکتورامون بیشتر ارتباط برقرار کنیم. و اگرم بشه در مورد خیلی از چیزایی مثل خود آنریل انجین و استاتیک مشایی که خود میتونیم باشون دریافت کنیم و باشون کار کنیم هم میتونیم باشون صحبت کنیم. دمتون هم گرم.